got a rare opportunity. I've got the house to myself for tonight and some part of the morning. So I'm going to do a bit of a blitz on the suspension here and throw some energy at it and try and get this thing installed. The workshop's an absolute mess because I'm putting up shadow boards and I'm trying to get more organized in here. So I've left that project on the side and I'm going to just get back on the car for a sec. A bit to do, some painting, assembly, get it on the car. And yeah, I'm just going to try and smash it out and get as much done as I can before, yeah, back to family life. All right, I've laid out everything on this table. That's pretty much for the front suspension. Again, please excuse the workshop. It is an absolute mess in here. And it's a bit embarrassing to be filming in here, but, you know, is what it is. So, got to keep these things moving. Where to start? So, I'll just go through everything really quick and then get into assembling. First off, you know, the Radis Rods, Z bars came up all right with the paint. And so do the struts. I decided not to paint the stub axles because, you know, I don't think they'll paint very well. I noticed when I was painting them too, the amount of spatter that's on the coil housings, I guess you call them. It's just insane from factory. And, you know, if I really cared about this car, I would probably have linished all those off and, you know, made them look schmick. But I don't really have time for those niceties at the moment, so the show goes on. All right, what else? Lower control arms, Whiteline. Again, nice bit of gear. You know, Whiteline bushes fitted, obviously. Looks good. New ball joint. They're on special, so a bit of a score there. What else? All right, yeah, so springs and shocks. Just quickly, I was going to go coilovers. I know everyone's using different brands out there. I really liked the BC Racing coilover setup. However, I just had like a last minute decision of, you know, what am I doing? You know, it's going to cost a bit more money, and you know, I just don't think this particular car needs it. There are other issues too. You know, I was researching on how they actually fit to the stub axles, and you got to cut these down, and then the other assembly of theirs slides over it and then is welded around here. And I've heard online of other people having cracking issues around there. And, you know, it's cast steel, the stub axle, so it's going to have to be preheated and certain weld procedure. And, you know, at the end of the day, I don't know what the fit is like of the BC coil or any of the coilovers that slide over this particular tube. But, you know, that's the only thing doing the work. If there is any clearance in here, all the work that when you know, radially turn on it, you know, that I don't know how much that's supporting it. It's just that weld. So I didn't like it. So I've left it, gone conventional, conservative, and it is cheaper, obviously. Except I did lash out and buy these Koni external, yellow shocks. The ones that you can, you know, use a little key from the strut tower and adjust the settings. I think there's like 20 settings on it. So I did get those, and I've decided to go with the King. They're just they're the low springs. So like a FE2 equivalent. And like, you know, I know everyone goes SLs on the front and double SLs on the back to give it that good look. But I just didn't want it to be that car again that was going to, you know, potentially sit on its ass and, you know, ride like shit. And I did speak to King, and they said that there are other issues too when you start going to the SL series, which are a more cosmetic spring, you might say. And that's the bump stop issue with the shocks. They can, you know, launch the bump stops wherever they are. Oh, there's one. So look, I just thought I'd just go the standard way. And look, if it sits up like a tractor, I'll have to adjust it then. And that is one of the beauties about going coilovers is, like, you know, you can just adjust it on the fly. So hopefully it doesn't sit up too high. I did actually like the ride height of the car when I bought it with the FE2s on it. I didn't mind that at all. So hopefully it just sits back where that was. Although I've been told this is about 5 or 10 mil lower than those. So fingers crossed. What do you call them? Shocker boots. They're ones I've had left over from another car that didn't fit So I'll see if they fit this one. And these are the ones I bought for this car, which look the same as that one. And I don't know if they'll fit either because they're a bit loosey-goosey on there. Yeah, I don't know. And KYB rubber strut top mounts. What do you call them? Plates. I've heard a lot of good things about those. They've got good cushioning properties, and you know they work well. Hopefully. What else? Superpro top spring pads for those. Superpro sway bar link pins and Superpro sway bar D bushes. All right, that's about it. And start getting this stuff assembled. Well, that didn't take long before I hit my first hurdle. So I've just fitted the shocker in. Gone to fit up this gland nut. And it only goes on about 2 turns. And doesn't sit home on the strut. And it's definitely locked up because that's gone nice and tight. So looking at it further, I'm guessing that this, the shocker housing is too long, obviously, and this little, I don't know, stop end or boss end might have to get ground down to get this gland nut to fit on, nice and flush. So I'm doing this one-handed. Don't have my cameraman. Because I want that to sit home on there and then just snip up on the strut. And I'm thinking, well, I shouldn't have to grind, $300 shock to get this thing to fit. And I can't be the only person having this problem in a Commodore. So, I'm going to do some more investigating and, then I'll work out a plan from there. Well, this has turned to shit real quick. So I've jumped online and some people say cut it. Some people say don't cut it. You can't run it with only one thread locking that shock in because it's got to be locked home. It'll work its way loose. So I've got to sort it out. Pretty sure it's the right part number, the 1066s. But I'm going to contact Koni and ask him the question anyway, because it looks like I have to take 6.5 mil off to get this thing to fit. And 6.5 mil is like, into the world, really. If it was 2 mil or whatever, yeah, sure. But, I don't know. It doesn't seem right. So before I go any further, I'm just going to stop there. And I've decided to check all my other parts. My strut boots are too short. And they also don't fit nicely over the bottom bit. And I remember having this same issue. That's why I've had these ones left over from another build. It's essentially the same thing. It's just not long enough. And the original ones I have removed, these are the OEM ones. They've got these nice steel caps. And they're heaps longer too. Like, look at the difference of that. So I don't know where to find those. So I might as well I can't build them without having those anyway. So that stopped me as well. So I've got to sort that out. And that looks like it. The spring obviously fits. That's going to work in there nice on top. The strut, the bearing plates fit. I'm going to do the Z bars now and get the lower control arms installed. At least I get something done. These are the Whiteline Radis Rod bushes into the K-frame. And the plan is just to draw them in. So I've got a bit of all thread here that was for a kit I made to remove and install diff bushes, which are absolute pain in the ass. And what I've done is I've used that bit of all thread and the nuts I have behind it. And I've stuck a clamp in there for the milling table, which fits in there beautifully. So that keeps that there. And then the plan is to, it's probably going to fall off. So excuse the camera work here. Doing all this by myself. Okay, so plan is to, draw it in like that. Put a bit of that molly goop in on the K-frame and behind the the bush, and away you go. All right, that one popped in relatively easy actually, with a bit of a wiggle on the oil thread. I was hoping to film that. I'll do the other one now and show you what that one looked like. All right, guys, excuse the camera work here. I don't have a fancy cameraman, so it's just me doing this. And then you just do that, and then give it a bit of a wiggle. A bit more. There we go. A lot nicer than bashing it with a rubber mallet, that's for sure. Now I'm just gonna chamfer the steel inserts and put them in. All right, I put a little lead-in chamfer on the pins, as you can see on the other one, and a little bit of the molly on the inside of that, and I'm just installing them the same way. Oh, they don't see my arm, sorry. Just drawing them in, and then you rock it, and then she's in. Should almost push back by hand. All right, I'll do the other one. More setbacks. The bolts that go through the K-frame to lower control arms, they're not genuine. Someone's replaced these, and they're stripped and lunged. I'm gonna have to find new bolts. They're not even graded anyway. So that stopped that. The radius rods are just sitting in there loose. All right, I've got some beers happening, and I think I'm going to increase my workload for my overnight suspension blitz, and I'm going to rip this diff out. I've already started pulling bits and pieces off it, as you can probably see. I grabbed the springs out of it because I wanted to check them against the King springs I had purchased, and yeah, that's all fine. I was hoping to actually leave this diff in because I wanted to just run it as it is for the time being. I don't have enough cash really to get this diff done up properly, so I'm just going to putt around the street in it. It's a 308 center factory LSD diff, so it's fine just to putt around the street in. And unfortunately, the reason I'm committed to pulling it out is because the particular rims I've chosen are 17x8 HSV rims, and they don't fit. Well, they fit in obviously, but the offset means that the end of the rim, when you run a straight edge on it, is flush with the lip. So there's just absolutely no room for the tire. And that's on both ends as well. And I have to run these particular rims because I'm running Group A V and Group A brakes on the front, and you have to run that to clear the brakes, so it has to fit in the back. And I did a bit more research online as well, and apparently the V and Group A actually ran a VL turbo diff because it's about 25-30 mil shorter flange to flange length at the back to fit the Group A rims on. I'm not running Group A rims, by the way, but yeah, so that's the same problem I think I was having when I was measuring up last week. So yeah, it's going to come out. I'm going to have to get it modified or buy a VL turbo diff. I'm not too sure yet. I'm looking at a few options online. All I know is it's got to come out. I'll try and flog this for a couple of bucks on Marketplace so I can get my little self GoFundMe to get my diff to, get another one back in it. All right, I reckon it's maybe an hour's work, if that. So I'm just gonna rip into it and get on the floor. Well, time is up on my overnight suspension blitz, and this is where I'm at. So diff is out, obviously. A few little things hanging, which are easy enough. What else have I done? Yeah, brakes are off. Pull the axles out, just draining the fluid now. Pushing out the diff bushes, and yeah, I haven't decided whether I'm going to take this diff to get rebuilt or just buy another diff, to use that to chop up and sell this one. I mean, I think by the time I buy someone else's diff, it'll probably be on par with how much I'll get for this one anyway. So I'm thinking I'll stick with the devil I know and, get this one modified because at least I know it's straight, it's not rusty, and it's in pretty good condition. So I'm going to play it safe, I think. See how we go. All right, so it's about 4:30 on this lovely rainy Sunday morning, as you can hear. So excuse the noise. I got an answer back from Koni late last week. So yeah, let's run through the plan. All right, in a nutshell, I have been advised to cut the ends of the shocks down to get them to work. And yeah, I've been working with a guy called Reed at Hakon Suspension in Dandenong, and he's been great to deal with, really. I purchased pretty much all the suspension gear from him, all the King Springs, the Whiteline, Superpro, and the Koni stuff. And yeah, he sourced everything from me, so it's been really easy. And you know, it's been even better when I've had this issue with the Konis, because I just pushed it back on them essentially. I took these shocks in, I took my struts in, and Reed worked with with his Koni rep, and they came to the conclusion that they're not fitting, and that I've got to cut the end down. Apparently this boss goes into the housing, the casing, an extra 10 to 15 mil, and you can easily cut 5 mil off the end of this and a bit into the weld if you have to, even though I probably won't end up doing that. And yeah, that's the fix. These are the right part number and the right shock that they have listed for Commodore, VB to VP. I think they run the same strut. And from what I gathered too, apparently this strut, this shocker, it's early. Apparently this shocker isn't designed exclusively for Commodore. It's actually a retrofit from an overseas vehicle somewhere, Europe, I'm guessing. It's retrofitted into Commodore because it's got this, approximately the right length, if you will. But yeah, that's why it's not fitting exact, because it's not really designed for the strut. A bit annoying too, because if that is the case, which it is, then they should really disclose that on the website, and at least say that, some cutting required. And, at the moment they give the impression it's just a direct bolt-in item, which it isn't. And, I was also advised to the gland nut has to seat properly on the strut. You can't leave it 2 turns on the thread. It's just not what you do. And the more I deep dive online into the issue, I found at least a dozen other conversations from other guys on Facebook posts and forums, and they're all having the same issue. So it's not just me, which is good, because I'm starting to think I'm cursed with this car. So many parts I buy that I think are going to be easy off the shelf for VN, it don't fit or aren't quite right, or something about them. So yeah, and that's why I think these videos are good, because the more we share this information, the more we can make better decisions on buying parts for the cars we love. It's not a direct bolt-in item, and I feel like they should disclose that cutting's required, because if I had known that at the time, I probably would have gone down a different road for suspensions, if you will, and maybe picked another choice or something else. There's plenty of other options out there. However, the Koni Yellows are a really good shock. They're externally adjustable inside the car, inside the bay with the little key. So they are a really nifty shock. And it's still not the end of the world. I'm just a bit, I guess, pissed off that I have to cut into a $300 shock to get it to work, really. And waste 2 weeks. Like it took, from that previous video to now, it's been 2 to 3 weeks. So you just lose heaps of time having to sort things out, all right. So with all that said, I'm going to cut them. And the plan is I'm going to take maybe 4 mil off straight away, and then I'm going to test fit it. And the gland nut's got quite it's got a receiver groove in there of about 2.5 mil. And my plan is to get the thread all the way engaged, and then whatever thickness is left, I'm going to guess about 2 mil. I might I'll machine up a custom washer that allows the shock to sit captive nice and tight inside there, but also let the nut do up on that face on the strut, so it's all nice and locked up. Now to cut it, there's a few ways, and we'll run through those with you now. I'm thinking the easiest option for some people out there is to reach for their angle grinder. I would advise not to do that. At the end of the day, it is a pressurized gas cylinder, and any localized heat could be bad. I'd also say, good luck trying to cut this thing nice and square with a freehand angle grinder. I don't see it happening, so don't do that. if you have a bandsaw, that would be my first pick, because it will hold it nice and square in there, and you know, it'll keep it cool too as long as you run the coolant on it. So that would be my option if that's all I had at home. But I'm lucky enough to have a mill, so I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. And this is my setup on the mill. So yeah, the strut sits nice inside the channel on the bed actually, and I've got a bit of angle on top of it to spread the clamping pressure out evenly against the hole of the cylinder. And I've got a few positive stops at the end here, so you know, when I take it off to measure it in the strut, I can load it back in. It'll be in the same spot every time. And I'm going to cut it with the 12mm mill, heaps of coolant, nice and slow. So yeah, that's the plan. Okay, just machined 4mm off the end of this. Nice and square. Let's see what it measures now. Oh, it's a bit hard to do this one hand. There we go. Where are we? All right. I reckon there's maybe 3mm gap in there. Let's see what it says. All right, just over 3. And I can see there's maybe about, I don't know, 0.3 of thread still sticking up in there. So I might take another 0.5 mil off it, I reckon, and then I'm going to machine up some a spacer shim for it. Actually, I just tightened up the gland nut and it closed up another 0.3. So the thread's fully engaged in that strut now. It just has a 2.5 mil gap. So I might make my spacer shim at that thickness and then just call it a day. You know, that way I've only machined 4 mil off the shocker, and that's a nice round number. Also to show you this too. This, you can buy a tool from, you know, Total Tools, whatever, for about 60, 80 bucks, a gland nut tool. Or if you have a 5-inch grinder key lying around, I've just found an old one that I've linished a corner off, and just pop it on one side, and then you pivot off the outer diameter of that nut, and then you can just tighten it that way. Save yourself 60 bucks for something you might use once every 10 years. Okay, if it will focus on this, maybe not. I just made up these 2.7mm thick spacer washers to go under the gland nuts and give me about 0.1 crush on the gland nut and on the shock itself. Let's try them out. So that's the spacer on the gland nut. Fits nice. Yeah, as I said before, it gives about 0.1 crush on the washer itself and about 0.2 on the shock. I've also put a bit of this copper grease on the threads just to help out the next guy in, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years time, which I guess could be me potentially. See how we go. I've also put a bit of CRC, like I sprayed a bit in there, then I blew it out with the air gun, just so it coats the whole area in a bit of CRC, just to try and aid it not rusting, I guess. Yeah, let's get the shocker in. All right, that's hand tight and a tiny bit of movement under that washer. Yeah, this angle grinder tool wasn't really cutting the mustard for me. Plus I found something else that I made once upon a time for something random. So I drilled out the inside to 25mm, and I just drilled and put two 6mm bolts in there, and that fits over the rod, and then yeah, clicks in nicely on the gland nut. It has a way better feel. So let's do that up. And that's it. No movement on the washer. The shock doesn't move up and down. It moves nicely. Done. I'm gonna machine up the washer and the shocker for the other strut now. Keep moving. Moving on to the strut boot saga. So, these are the ones I had for the car originally. This one I bought for the VN, and I had this for a VB I used to own many years ago. Both of these are not correct, and I don't know why they're listed for VN VP. Don't buy them. They are the Monroe part number PK004 and Whiteline part number W92904s. Yeah, don't buy them. So let's just get them right out of the picture. Goodbye, mate. And onto the winning option. So this is the OEM boot off the car, 35 years old, and it looks it too, including the completely flogged out bump stop on the bottom there. And these are the KYB, where are we? KYB SB5196, and they come with this bump stop. As you can see, the bottoms are virtually identical, even with the 4 drain holes down the on the bottom part. Same diameter. This one's obviously, have been flogged. This one here will extend quite a lot. And the top is virtually the same, apart from this collar here. And in fact, I've actually fitted the cap from the other. Switch it over. So that's the cap fitted into this. And this part here, my fingers on, the cap's actually sitting beautifully in that groove. And this bit here is just doing nothing really. So I could just get a razor blade and just take that top lip off, and it would look virtually like that. So that's what I'm going with. And yeah, let's get them installed. So these were the genuine GM bump stops that are completely gone to God. And these are the new KYB ones that come with the boots. Pretty much the same profile on top, which is good because the genuine ones fit in like that nice little dish cone. And these do the same. Probably better, I would say. It's got a lot more surface area. These are actually a bit shorter than the original. The KYBs are a bit shorter than the genuine ones. It sticks out an extra 10 or 15, but I don't think that'll matter. Just has a bit more travel before it hits the bump. So what? These plastic washers come with the Konis. Slides over there. Seems like a good idea. And in fact, the bump stop diameter is pretty much the same size as that washer, which is a little bit bigger than the Gland nut anyway, so it kind of will help to absorb that impact. So that's seeming good. And one thing I just realized too is that it's a bastard to try and get. Let's say if you had this on the rod first, it's very difficult to feed. That hole's too small for that. So it's easier to put this on first, get that over that Gland nut, and then fit, and then the washer goes on inside, that, and then that, and then once all that goes inside like that, then you start to feed that top cap lip inside this part here. So I'll do that now. Okay, got the boot on, and the bellow still has plenty of movement, which is good. Cable tie down the bottom there, and the steel cap is a bit of a bitch to put on, but it's not that hard, and it's nice and captive in there. It's not going anywhere. It doesn't even need a cable tie, to be honest, and I can't be bothered cutting that off because you'll never see it. So yeah, I think it's a much better option of using that one from the VR to VT, I think it is, than the other ones I got. Okay, springs. So I'm using the King low springs. Progressive rate spring. I mean, everyone knows that. Closer coils up the top go towards the top, and the coils with a greater gap go towards the bottom. One thing that did throw me off when I first got them out of the box was that, I'll try and show you it here poorly, is that the driver's side is a good 10 to 12 mil longer than the passenger side. And it was doing my head in. I ended up calling Kings, and they said don't worry that it's designed like that. It's supposed to be like that. They say that apparently the car won't sit level if they don't have that slightly higher spring in the driver's side. So I hope that's the case, because I'm going to be pretty pissed if the car doesn't sit level because the spring's higher or longer. And just for, just a bit of info too, when I pulled the FE2 springs out of it, they measured exactly the same length. So I don't know what that tells me. We'll wait and see. All right, let's get the driver's side spring on there. Obviously, it's not sitting up yet because it hasn't got its orientation and upper spring seat on. So let's get that on now. Okay, this is the upper spring plate. I've cleaned it up. I haven't painted it because I don't think it matters. No one's going to see it. This is the Superpro upper spring plate insulator, whatever you want to call it. So it just goes on like, hopefully, just sort of pushes on like that for now anyway. Yep. And then this goes on. So from what I've done previously, and I double checked online as well, is this little Pac-Man cutout, this little half moon cutout, goes towards the stub axle, and there's a little W at the back. Don't know if you can see it there. The W goes towards the sway bar mounting lug, and that's it. So now comes the scary fun of the spring compressor. So let's do that. So got the spring all compressed up. What should I say? So yeah, the half moon is pointing towards the stub axle, and the little W is towards the back. That's all looking good. Now the bearing plates are the KYBs. That's the number there. Yeah, they look pretty good. The original, when I was pulling the original Strut apart, it had this little dishwasher which sat like that. So I'm going to put him back in. Bearing plate goes on. I should say they are left and rights, and this is the right hand side. It's clearly marked. That goes down there and it spins. Have to worry about the index there for the moment. This nut and washer came with the Koni Strut, although I'm not going to run those. I'm going to run the original washer and the lock nut. So yeah, I'll get that on now. Okay, the nut on top. So what you don't want to do is reach for the impact gun or an air gun, something like that, because all you'll end up doing is spinning the rod inside. You want to end up actually doing up tightening the nut. It won't work that way, and you'll probably end up just chewing out the seals inside the shock as well. So don't use that. What you want to use is a special tool. I think the real tool you buy is like a hollow socket set or something. I don't have one of those, and I've had this set of hex tubes for like forever, and I've never used them apart for this one job. And this essentially, what you want to do is hold the rod with that 11mm hex or 7/16 hex, and then drive the nut down. So what this does is, this is how you drive the nut. That goes over there. And then this 11mm goes down the guts of it. And then that actually, pen back a little bit. So then that's how you hold the rod. And then you just grab You just grab a shifter and then do up the nut. Now I don't have an open ring torque wrench because I just don't have one. So I can't really do it up to a torque. I'm just gonna have to use common sense torque in this particular case, which is just fine. Okay, job done. I'll build the next side the same way, and then yeah, get these lower control arms installed. Both the struts are built. Yeah, pretty straightforward. I've got the rest of the parts on the table here to get these things in. I ended up painting the stub axles black to match the rest of it because I'm here now. I might as well make them look as good as I can. So yeah, let's get them installed. All right, so yeah, this is the way I do it. I'm not saying it's the best way by any means. It's probably not the worst way. It's just the way I do it, and it gets done. So first off, the Z bar's loose. There's a washer that goes on. It goes on with the cup facing towards the front bumper. Slides on like that. Then you got your lower control arm, obviously. These are left and right, so it says here on the side 5901L. This is the Whiteline lower control arm. I don't remember what it says on the factory ones. It probably says RL somewhere, so just have a look out for it. Next thing we do is put a little bit of the Nolithane grease on the points that are going to rub. So behind the washer, I'm just doing it now off camera. Behind the washer, and a little bit on here, I think, where it's going to. And I've also put a little bit on the side washer here too. Just using the stuff that comes with it. A little sachet, if you will. Then what we do in the Z bar first, like that. And then I should actually put a little bit up. Actually, I'll probably just sit down like that for a sec. Should probably put a little bit up in here too, because it's probably gonna all just get rubbed off anyway as soon as I put it up there. All right, that's that. And then this goes up relatively easy. You can feel the grease working there. That's good. Got some new M12 8.8 bolts with 2 hardened washers. And that should hopefully, I can't see what I'm doing because the camera's in my way. It goes through like that. And then washer and nut. Right, and then for this, the outside there, again, you're a little bit of the Nolithane grease to go. Actually, it's probably easier because there is a little insert here. This one here goes it's sort of cupped into this little recess. Sorry. Okay. And then that goes on like that. And then you have this other washer and this flared nut that goes through like that. And that nut actually, it's hard to see on the camera here. If I turn it around, probably bump it and fall. This little step actually goes inside that tube. Sorry, inside the rubber. So I'm just going to do that now. Just going to put a little bit of grease on this and on the back of that washer. All right, and then I'm just going to make sure I've got, yeah, that's all right. And just do that up. And that'll sort of draw into that bush at the same time. And that's it. Do all those up, which I'll do off camera now, and then yeah, we'll get on to, I'm going to do up the Z bar, do up the pivot point there, and I'll do up this as well. And yeah, then we're going to put the strut in. With the strut mounts, I'm going to go back to... With the strut mounts, there's a few ways you can do it. Obviously, this thing will index around. And it indexes because it can give you the standard setting or positive or negative camber, I believe, depending on which way you put this into the spring tower. However, I just want to go back to standard and see what it's like from there. So to do that, to go back to the standard setting, what I believe is you line up this hole here that my thumb's pointing to this hole there in the spring tower. So that's how you know you've gone back to standard, and this half moon faces towards the engine. Oh yeah! I'm sure most of you guys out there can relate to this next bit, and that is getting most of the heavy work done by yourself on the ground on your knees. So this video will be no exception to that. That's how we get things done. Alright. So I've got my nut ready up here. And we're just going to go for it. Okay, not too bad. Now I'm just going to nip up the bolts on the spring tower, and then we'll get to installing the lower control arm into the strut assembly. I'm going to try a different camera angle for this one, so hopefully you can see. All right, the strut's nipped up on the top bolts. I'm going to try a different camera angle for this one, so hopefully you can still see what I'm doing. So the strut's, just nipped up on the top bolts, and it can move freely. Lower control arm can move, and I've bent the ball joint as far forward as I can, and it just can drop in there. But before I do all that, I'm going to put a bit of my trusty copper on there, just to help out. The next person has to pull this off, because they're a bastard to start getting off if you've got them on dry. You've got to start bashing them, as you all know. Anyway, a bit of that's on there. It's good enough anyway. A bit more for good luck, eh? Alright. Now, hopefully this goes to plan. So, I just pull the strut forward a bit, push down on the lower control arm. It drops into the hole. And then as you do this, it just walks its way in. And that's it. Well, other than putting I think there's enough room for a washer on this, yeah. Washer, and maybe a bit more on the nut. Why not? Because we're here now, might as well do it. A little bit of copper on the nut. And that's it. Tighten that up. So everything else is just loosely nipped up now. So I'm gonna go ahead now and torque up all the the caster rod bolt, the lower control arm, pivot bolt from the K-frame. I'm gonna torque this up, and the Radis Rod, caster rod that goes in the side of the control arm, I'll torque that too. And I'll also do the spring tower nuts up as well. And then move on to the other side. So I've gone ahead and tensioned everything up. I thought I might as well just tell you the tensions, because It's right in front of me, and I've put this much detail in now. I might as well go that one step further. So that's the book I'm using. So in a nutshell, the lower control ball joint nut, which is that one there, it says to do 80 to 95 Newton meters. The inside nut on the lower control arm is 95 to 110 Newton meters. The tension rod nuts on the Z bar is 95 to 110. So that's the front one on the K-frame and the one inside the lower control arm down here. And what else? It says the, where is it? The spring tower nuts on the strut mount on the top are 13 to 16 Newton meters. And I'm about to do this now. Where'd it go? I'm going to do the tie rod end for the steering rack. It says to do that up to 60 to 70 Newton meters. Now, you know, you could also just use common sense tensioning, but it is handy to kind of know roughly where it should be. And I'm lucky enough got a tension wrench, so yeah. All right, let's put the tie rod end on now. All right, tie rod ends. I just remembered I've got a bit of work there still to do. I've only just set the rack in here to ensure that I had clearance for the headers, outlets that I made. So, but I've still got to plumb it all up to the power steering pump and, you know, bolt it in properly. And once all the car's back on the ground, I'm going to do a proper wheel alignment. I might even do a video on that too, how I do it with the string line method. Pretty simple, but it works. It's definitely good enough to drive out of the place with, and then I can go to a proper shop. Anyway, back to the tie rod. So, new tie rods, obviously. It's a Rico rack from Active Power Steering. I forgot where they are. Maybe Dandenong? Forgotten. And might as well treat it to some new tie rod ends. And these ones I'm using, the part number is VS14368. Let's get them out. Cap off. Again, where is my trusty C's? And I just realized there's no lock nut with this kit. Obviously, it's got the nut for the ball joint on the top, but there's no lock nut. Usually there's a lock nut. Right. I'm gonna have to find the original one. Yeah. I found the original lock nuts, and yeah, they have had a pretty hard life, because I'm guessing this thing's had quite a few wheel alignments in its time. But lucky I've got a few nuts spare, so just chuck those on. It's a bit cheap. It's a bit of a stitch up. They don't give you a lock nut in the new tie rodding kit. Must cost an extra 4 cents, and they wanted to keep that profit for themselves. Oh well. Now, I'm just going to put this on roughly to where I think it should be for now. It doesn't really matter, to be honest, because it's going to change once I get it back on the ground. So roughly there. Come back a bit more. Again, a bit of a bit of copperies. Push that down a little bit. There we go. I mean, you probably already know how to do this. I'm probably being a bit of an overkill doing this. It needs a washer anyway. I think it needs a washer. Maybe you can't fit a washer on that. All right. making sure there's a bit of copperies under that boot. That's it. I'm probably going to find a washer for that because there's definitely enough room for one, so I might as well put one on there. Another massive possum deciding to use my roof as a freeway. Yeah, all right, so I'll tension that and I'll build the other side, and then I'm going to do the sway bar. With the sway bar, I'm not going to paint it. It's not too bad actually. Still got that nice sort of glossy paint look to it from factory, so which is rare, so I might as well, you know, go with it. I have painted the D-bush mounting brackets. They came up all right. And I'm using a Superpro D-bush kit. That's the part number there. And it comes with a bit of grease. And yeah, fit in there nicely. It's a 25mm sway bar. That's the 25K part number part there. They could all be different. I've had other Commodores and they all seem to be slightly different, you know, 22, 3, 4, 5mm diameter bars. So it pays to measure the one that you have. And it's definitely different on the rear. It's usually a bit smaller. And with the link bars, link pins, this is the kit I'm using. Again, Superpro. And I picked the heavy duty kit and I can't remember why I did that. I may not have had an option to pick anything else, to be honest, but these ones here are the ones, these are the factory ones. You can see how much, you know, beefier these pins are. They've also got a bit of an, like an S to them, or dog leg, I should say, they do this. As opposed to these ones just straight. And these are about 14mm, I reckon, and these are about 10, so they are quite a bit chunkier. Yeah, don't know how I feel about it. I do like these ones do look alright, and also the bushes fit onto these ones as well. So I'm gonna get the sway bar fitted up with the D bushes first, and then I'll see what these look like in there. And if I think these are too chunky, I'll just clean these up and put the Superpro bushes on these instead. I got the sway bar in there with the D bushes. Likewise on the other side. And so I've just sat one of these links in there. I'll just pull it out for a sec. I'm going to set it up so that the trail of the little S goes towards the back. Seems to line up the best with the sway bar when you push it up tight. I think I'm going to run these links that came in the heavy duty kit. You know, if it doesn't drive well, I'll just change them out, but I think I'll use them for now. Yeah, so pretty straightforward, really. It does say in this little one pager you get in the packet not to over tighten the bushes. You just want to go up firm only, and it says to run the cupped on the cup washers facing out. That's about it, really. So here we go. Bush goes on. Sort of clicks into that little hole there, and then washer facing out, and that's that. And then same with the bottom, and for some reason I'm missing a washer. Yeah, must lift it up on the table, but you get the idea. All right, they're all done up. I'm not entirely sure why they stress about over tightening these bushes, because the way they've set up, the way they've machined these link pins, by the time you put the nut on, it bottoms out on this thread anyway, and it kind of gives you a preset crush amount on that shoulder. So, like, you know, that's how much the nut is sticking out there, and it's the same as the bottom too. So you really can't go wrong with over tightening it, because it's a preset distance. And yeah, they've bunched up a little bit, which is good, and you can see that they're definitely doing their job holding this thing tight. But I guess it's smarter than to do that, so that, you know, people don't tighten the hell out of them and mushroom the bearings, the bushes, sorry. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten the other side now, and then pop the bonnet. Actually, I could do with a bit of advice on what to do with this wheel guard area. As you can see, it's all just original paint and body deadener. It's all just chipping off and, you know, looking a bit aged and tired. And it kind of sucks, and you have all this nice new, you know, suspension parts, and it's not a nice background for all the good stuff you're bolting on. So I'm half tempted to shoot it in a bit of black, to be honest. And I mean, just really quickly, everything from this rail forwards up into the guard area. Oh, my LED light is dying. That's what that flashing is telling me. But at the same time, you know, I've purposely not painted anything on this car. Nothing underneath, nothing engine bay, because I want it to look, you know, as is, presentable, that kind of thing. It is a really straight and tidy car, so I don't want to look like I'm hiding anything by painting it. But, you know, it would look a lot better if it was black in there, just saying. So I'm not sure what to do. Now comes the fun part. So I've got the Koni key in there, and I've got this really basic, like kid-like instruction sheet here to adjust them. And it pretty much says rotate anti-clockwise, you know, in half turn or 180 increments. And you can go a max of 2 turns, so 720 degrees. And this second drawing here has got this little sport logo here, which is 2 pluses. So that's 360 degrees. So I'm just going to go with that for the time being and see what it drives like. So all I've done is, to keep it simple, because I don't want to get too scientific, is actually going to use this little red Koni V as my start point. And I've just marked a little bit of tape down there of where I've started. And that's it. I think that's about it. Where am I? Yeah. It's hard to film that. Yeah, that's it. I'll do the other side. It is very fragile, I feel. This little tab is, when I try to, because I made sure I was obviously all the way home, as in a stop position. It feels very fragile, and I'm going to be very careful with that, because it'd be the end of the world if you broke. I'd be so disappointed if I broke that tab off. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do the other side now, and that's it. All right, coming up on my next video, I'm installing brakes. And this is what we're doing. So 328mm DBA rotors, really nice bit of gear. And C4 Corvette, essentially V and Group A calipers, and all the bracketry and lines to go with it. So yeah, really looking forward to that video. I've had those brakes for a while, and I've been really, really keen to get them on the car. So should be a good video. And, you know, if you are enjoying the videos, please hit that subscribe and like button. That way you can, you know, keep up to date whenever I post new videos like this Group A brake setup I'm going to do on the next one. And yeah, thanks for watching. Cheers.